The sun was going down over Ambergris Key, and Jax Montgomery was visiting a beachside restaurant bustling with tourists and laughter. He slouched in his chair. His perfectly tailored linen shirt screamed luxury, but his face said, "Why am I even here?" He sipped his drink, trying to drown out his inner monologue about work stress and his messy personal life. Enter Sofia Castillo. She was balancing a tray of cocktails with the skill of an acrobat and the grace of a ballerina. Her dark curls framed a sun-kissed face that lit up the room, though her mind was far away. She was thinking about her family back in Mullins River and wondering how she could stretch her paycheck even further this week. "Here's your drink," Sofia said as she placed the glass on the table. "Finally," Jax muttered, barely looking up. Sofia froze. A spark of annoyance flickered in her chest, but she held her tongue. She didn't need a rich tourist ruining her mood tonight. And then disaster struck. As Sofia turned to leave, her tray clipped the edge of Jax's table, sending the vibrant blue cocktail cascading down his pristine shirt. "Seriously?" Jax exclaimed, leaping to his feet. Sofia gasped. "Oh no, I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't clean this shirt," Jax snapped. "Well, maybe you shouldn't sit so close to the edge of the table," she shot back, hands on her hips. Jax blinked. Nobody talked to him like that ever. For a moment, they just stared at each other, sparks flying. The tourists at the nearby tables paused mid-bite, sensing the tension. Finally, Sofia grabbed a napkin and tossed it onto the table. "There, try not to spill it on yourself again," she said with a wink, walking away before he could reply. That should have been the end of it, but Jax found himself returning to the restaurant the very next night, and the night after that. "The ceviche is excellent here," he told his best friend over the phone, conveniently leaving out the part about the feisty waitress who had somehow gotten under his skin. Sofia noticed, of course. She rolled her eyes every time he walked in, but she also couldn't deny the flutter in her chest when he smiled at her. He wasn't just another arrogant tourist. There was something vulnerable about him. One evening, Jax lingered long after the other diners had left. "Do you ever get tired of this place?" he asked as Sofia cleared a nearby table. Sofia paused. "Not really, but I miss the mainland sometimes. My family, my village. It's a different world from this." "Tell me about it," Jax said, surprising her. And so, beneath the moonlit sky, they talked. Sofia told him about her dreams of becoming a marine biologist and her secret work studying manatees. Jax opened up about his failed engagement and the cutthroat world of Silicon Valley. For the first time in years, Jax felt seen. But paradise doesn't last forever. Trouble arrived in the form of Vanessa St. Clair, Jax's ex-fiancée, who swept into the resort like a hurricane in heels. She was all sharp smiles and designer dresses, and she wasted no time making Sofia feel small. "Do you know who Jax is?" Vanessa sneered one evening after spotting Sofia talking to him. "He's not someone you can just flirt with to get ahead." Sofia clenched her fists, fighting back tears. "I don't want anything from him." Vanessa smirked. "Good. Keep it that way." As if that wasn't enough, Sofia's secret was about to explode. One night, while sneaking into a restricted area to document a family of manatees, she was caught by resort security and Jax. "What the hell are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice cold. Sofia's heart sank. "I can explain." "Save it," Jax snapped. "Do you know how much trouble you could get into for this? Or how much trouble you've just caused me?" It was like a switch had flipped. The man who had been opening up to her was gone, replaced by the businessman who saw everything as a liability. Sofia felt her heart break as he walked away. But Jax couldn't shake the look on Sofia's face that night. It haunted him. When he found out what she'd been doing, risking her job to protect endangered marine life, he realized how wrong he had been. With his connections, he could help her. He could fix this. But could he win her trust back? Before he could figure it out, a tropical storm barreled toward the island, forcing everyone to shelter at the resort. And as fate would have it, Sofia was stranded there too. When the winds howled and the rain lashed against the windows, Jax found himself face to face with Sofia once more. "I don't need your help," she said, her voice trembling, not from fear of the storm, but from the storm inside her heart. "I know," Jax said softly, "but I want to help anyway." Suddenly the roof groaned and a beam cracked. Jax barely had time to react before Sofia shoved him out of the way, saving him from the collapsing debris. As they huddled together in the aftermath, soaking wet and shaken, Jax looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "You're incredible," he whispered. Sofia's lips trembled, but she didn't pull away. "You're not so bad yourself." The storm raged on, but for the first time Jax and Sofia felt like they had found their calm. As the storm raged outside, Sofia and Jax sat huddled in the corner of the resort's grand dining room. Water leaked through the ceiling, and the windows rattled with every gust of wind. But amidst the chaos, they found themselves locked in an unspoken truce. "I can't believe you actually dove in front of that falling beam for me," Jack said, his lips curving into a rare, genuine smile. "You could have let it hit me. I've been told I'm too arrogant to live anyway." Sofia rolled her eyes, though a faint smile tugged at her lips. "I'm not sure saving you was my smartest decision. You're a handful." "Guilty," Jack said, holding up his hands. "But come on, I owe you now, big time. Name it. I'll make it happen." Sofia's smile faltered. "I don't want your money, Jax." "Who said anything about money? I could do, I don't know, labor? Build you a house with my bare hands, although I'd probably need someone to supervise so it doesn't collapse." "I know," Jack said, "but I want to try." Before she could respond, a massive crash came from outside, and the lights flickered out completely. A gasp went up from the small crowd of resort guests taking shelter. "Great," Sofia muttered, as if this night wasn't dramatic enough. Jax fished his phone from his pocket and turned on the flashlight. "Stick with me, Miss Heroic. I'm very bad in survival situations, and you've already proven you're good at saving me." Sofia shook her head, biting back a grin. "Fine, but if you scream at the sight of a crab, I'm leaving you behind." The storm finally passed in the early hours of the morning, leaving the resort battered but intact. As the sun rose, the staff scrambled to assess the damage. Sofia immediately jumped in to help, her years of growing up in a fishing village making her no stranger to post-storm cleanups. Jax, to everyone's surprise, including his own, joined in. He traded his designer shoes for a pair of borrowed rubber boots and spent the morning hauling debris and repairing what he could. "You're going to ruin your manicure," Sofia teased as she passed him, balancing a bucket of water on her hip. "Too late," Jax replied, holding up his dirt-streaked hands. "I think I'm actually allergic to hard work." "You're surviving just fine," Sofia said with a wink. As the day wore on, they found themselves working side by side, their bickering turning into an easy rhythm. Jax even managed to make Sofia laugh when he slipped in the mud and landed flat on his back, declaring, "This is it. The storm didn't kill me, but manual labor has." But the peace was short-lived. By evening, word reached the resort that the mainland had been hit harder than expected. Mullins River, Sofia's village, was in bad shape. Homes were flooded, roads were washed out, and many families had lost everything. Sofia's heart sank. "I need to get home," she said, panic creeping into her voice. "The roads might not be safe," Jack said, worry etched on his face. "I don't care. My family needs me," Sofia said, already grabbing her things. "Wait!" Jax called after her. "You're not going alone." "What, you're coming with me?" Sofia asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," Jack said, surprising even himself. "I've been through a lot of storms, but I think this is the first one where I actually care about what happens after." Sofia stared at him, a mix of emotions swirling in her chest. "You're serious?" "Completely," Jack said. "You can't get rid of me that easily." They set off at dawn, boarding a small, battered boat that creaked with every wave. The journey across the choppy water was anything but smooth, and by the time they reached the mainland, they were soaked to the bone, again. Mullins River was a heartbreaking sight. Fallen trees and debris littered the streets, and Sofia's neighbors were hard at work trying to salvage what they could. "Here," Jack said, pulling a wad of cash from his wallet. "Start buying supplies. I don't know, lift something heavy." Sofia stared at him, stunned. "You don't have to do this." "I know," Jack said, giving her a lopsided grin, "but I want to." For the first time, Sofia saw Jax not as a spoiled tourist, but as someone who was willing to roll up his sleeves for her. "Okay," she said softly, "let's do this." As they worked together to help rebuild the village, Jack started to see the world through Sofia's eyes, a world of resilience, hope, and community. And Sofia began to realize that beneath Jax's polished exterior was a man who was willing to fight for what mattered. But just as they were starting to find their footing, an unexpected visitor arrived in Mullins River, Vanessa. "I came to bring you back, Jax," she said with a saccharine smile, ignoring the mud on her designer shoes. "This phase of yours has gone on long enough." Sofia's stomach twisted as Jack stood frozen, torn between the life he'd left behind and the new one he was beginning to imagine. The storm had passed, but the biggest test of all was yet to come. Vanessa's arrival felt like a thunderclap on a clear day. She stood in the muddy street of Mullins River, completely out of place in her spotless white designer outfit and oversized sunglasses. Her eyes swept over the scene, collapsed huts, barefoot children, and Jack standing shoulder to shoulder with Sofia holding a hammer. "Jax," she said in a sugary sweet tone that didn't match the sharpness in her gaze, "you've had your little adventure. Let's go back to the resort and get you cleaned up. We can catch the next flight home." Jax wiped sweat from his brow, his expression unreadable. "Vanessa, what are you doing here?" "I came to save you," Vanessa said with a laugh as if it were obvious. "This isn't your life. You belong in San Francisco, not playing village handyman." She turned her gaze to Sofia, her lip curling ever so slightly. "And certainly not here." Sofia stiffened, gripping the handle of a bucket so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Excuse me?" Vanessa didn't even look at her. "Jax, darling, let's leave before this phase of yours becomes embarrassing." Sofia opened her mouth, ready to unleash a fiery response, but Jax beat her to it. "Vanessa," he said, his voice cool and steady, "you don't get to decide what's embarrassing for me." Vanessa's perfect smile faltered. "Jax, be serious. This isn't you." "You're right," Jax said, taking a step closer to Sofia. "This isn't the old me, but maybe that's a good thing." Vanessa stared at him, her face a mix of confusion and disbelief. "Are you saying you're staying here?" "I'm saying I'm figuring it out." Jax replied, glancing at Sofia. "And for once I'm not letting anyone else decide what that looks like." Sofia's heart skipped a beat, but she quickly masked her emotions. "Don't let us keep you, Vanessa. I'm sure the resort is missing you already." Vanessa's jaw tightened, but she wasn't one to lose a battle easily. "This isn't over, Jax," she said before turning on her heel and striding back to the waiting car, her heels sinking slightly in the mud with each step. As she disappeared, Sofia let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Well, that was dramatic," Jax chuckled. "Vanessa does have a knack for making an entrance." Sofia raised an eyebrow. "And are you sure you're not getting back in that car with her?" Jax looked at her, his gaze steady. "I've made enough mistakes in my life, Sofia. Leaving right now would be the biggest one." For the first time since she'd met him, Sofia believed him. The next few days were a whirlwind of work. Jax threw himself into the rebuilding efforts with a determination that surprised even Sofia. He coordinated deliveries of supplies, helped rebuild roofs, and even managed to entertain the village kids by attempting and failing miserably to fish with them. "Look at you," Sofia teased one afternoon as Jax tried to untangle himself from a fishing net. "You might just be turning into a local." Jax grinned, holding up the net triumphantly. "I think I'm getting the hang of it." A small boy tugged on his sleeve. "You caught a shoe," the boy said, giggling. Jax looked down to see an old muddy shoe tangled in the net. "Well, it's, vintage," he said, making the kids burst into laughter. Sofia couldn't help but smile. For all his quirks, Jax was trying, and that meant more than she could say. But trouble wasn't done with them yet. One evening, while sorting through donations, Sofia found a letter tucked into a crate of supplies. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "Sofia Castillo," it read. "We know what you've been doing in the protected marine areas. If you don't stop immediately, we'll have no choice but to report you to the authorities." Her heart pounded as she reread the letter. Who could have sent this? Did they know about her secret research? She was so lost in thought that she didn't notice Jax walking up behind her. "Hey, what's that?" he asked, peering over her shoulder. Sofia quickly folded the letter and shoved it into her pocket. "Nothing. Just a list of supplies we still need." Later that night, as the village settled into an uneasy calm, Jax found Sofia sitting alone on the beach, staring out at the waves. "You're not okay," he said, sitting down beside her. Sofia sighed. "It's just a lot. The storm, the village, everything. And that letter," Jax added, his voice gentle. She looked at him, surprised. "You didn't believe me?" "I know what it looks like when someone's carrying the weight of the world," he said. "I see it every time I look in the mirror." Sofia hesitated, then pulled the letter from her pocket and handed it to him. As Jax read it, his jaw tightened. "Who sent this?" he asked. Sofia admitted, "But if they report me, I'll lose my job. I can't risk that, not with everything my family needs." Jax's eyes darkened with determination. "We'll figure out who's behind this, Sofia, and we'll stop them." She stared at him, her heart swelling despite the fear gnawing at her. "Why do you care so much?" Jax smiled faintly. "Because for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm part of something that matters." Sofia didn't know what to say, so instead she leaned her head against his shoulder as the waves crashed against the shore, both of them knowing that their fight was far from over. This is the first part of a two-part Caribbean romance story. If you enjoyed my story, give it a thumbs up. Comment so that I may know your thoughts, and share it with your friends. Subscribe so that the rhythm of the waves and the allure of tropical nights will sweep you away. Explore more enchanting Caribbean romance stories that will leave you longing for sunsets and second chance. Dive into a world of passion, adventure, and unforgettable love set against the breathtaking backdrop of the Caribbean. Experience stories filled with ocean kissed promises, moonlit beaches, and hearts weathering lives. This is Irene Pandy Slusher saying, don't stress, but, as we say in Belize, go slow.